Who here has been wondering or is wondering how their work is going to connect with their faith in a real way? Anybody? Maybe might have done fellows for that reason. I had the same kind of question, and I remember sitting in Bill's class, Bill Fullove's class, hearing about why we're here, what we've been tasked to do, what God put us on this earth to do. And then thinking, okay, well, I see that God put order into the chaos, that he brought, structure and meaning into this formlessness and this void. And I don't understand how that's going to connect to consulting. I don't understand. Where's the intersection there? And so that's a question that I really struggled with for a while during our fellows year, and even still it's something that I wrestle with on a daily basis. And sometimes the answer becomes more clear than others, but I want to talk through a little bit about that today. So first I want to go into this idea of what Kate was talking about, this language to talk about it. When you have a language to talk about something, you can communicate with other people, you can connect, you enter into relationship, and you can create meaningful dialogue. And in that same vein, I think a lot of us have been wondering, what is this language we're going to use to talk about our work and our faith in work? And what does that look like? What are the conversations we're going to have? How are we going to interact with people? And what are the challenges we're going to face? And something that hadn't been made clear to me until Fellows Year was this idea of chaos. Genesis 1:1, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The next verse, the earth was formless and void. And another way to say that is, it was chaotic. It was chaos. There's so much chaos around us that I've found one of my great strengths and gifts and passions and missions, both in my own personal life and at work, has been to bring order to that chaos. But I didn't have a framework for that language until Fellows Year. I was lucky enough that we took a self-assessment. I don't know about you guys, but I love self-assessments. I'm a geek, a nerd, and love finding out more about myself. So Myers-Briggs, StrengthsFinders, all of those, you name it, I've taken them. I still keep all those results, and I have them at home in a nicely compiled folder. Yeah. Michelle reminds me that I rarely look at them, but I sneaky me, I get away with it. But something I learned from SEMA, the assessment we took, was that my greatest strengths come out when I'm in environments where there is chaos, and that my great passion is to be an enabler to bring order to that chaos. And it's no wonder that that's the case, because it's one of the things that God does. Not as only one of the things that he does, but he does it first. It's one of the first things he does in this world. So that's pretty cool. So that's something I took with me, and it's something that I felt like prepared me to have a language for, okay, what is this consulting thing, and how does it apply to my faith? Because in the consulting realm, I found that there's only one question that's more often asked than what is a fellow, is what is a consultant? Anybody? The best version of an answer I can give you is we help our clients think about answers to problems they haven't thought of yet. Right, wrong, or indifferent. But besides that question, something I faced is I knew going into consulting there would be long hours, there would be hard projects, there would be complex problems that you had to adapt to very quickly and be like this ninja genius guy who could answer everything. Well, that sounds cool, and I would love to do that and be that guy. But at the end of the day, for me, it comes down to creating structure and order and giving language, or using language to create that structure and order with organizations and people. And that so happens to be where they're employed, and the people that they employ, and the other people that they work with, and teams and individuals. Sometimes it means coaching one-on-one, and sometimes it means creating spreadsheets, or PowerPoint, or editing a Word document. I can tell you a lot about Word. I spent, on my first project, and by first I mean it lasted 2 years, and in the consulting realm, a normal project goes like 6 months, so 2 years is a long time. There was a period of which I was in a dark place because work for me became this gigantic mountain of darkness because it meant I was working on this project, and it meant that I wasn't home. It meant that I couldn't be home with my wife other than to eat dinner because I had to work. And then realizing that this was something that we were faced with at Fellows, I came to this question of, okay, God, where are you? You know, I don't see you, I don't feel you, I can't touch you. I don't know where you are, I don't see you in my work in consulting right now. And I couldn't put words to that, and that made me feel powerless, and it made me feel like I didn't feel empowered in the work that I was doing. I didn't feel fulfilled, engaged, any number of those words that our generation wants to have from our work. So thankfully, and ultimately, that project had a natural ending, but not necessarily a clear resolution. And we'll come back to that in a minute. But I remember praying during Fellows Year that it's like, there's so many models in business and in consulting that, there's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. It's called SWOT analysis. There's organizational design, there's business process reengineering, and a bunch of other consultantese terms that I could spew at you that would mean nothing to you, and that's okay. But of all of those, I'd never heard of one that was just, what is this, what does biblical consulting look like? What does it look like to be a faithful Christian in a consulting realm when you're traveling most of the time, you're doing long hours, you're working intensely, and it takes you away from community? That kind of feels like the opposite of everything Fellows was teaching me. And so I was thankfully blessed when, through a connection from Michelle, was offered a position at a small firm. And the first firm I was at, just to give a little context, has 150,000 people in the firm worldwide. That's a few people. That can make you feel small, and it did for me for a long time, especially during that project and the hard times. And I felt lost, and I still tried to keep in mind that I have a community, I have a church, I've been involved with Fellows on the steering committee, and so I still felt plugged in, but I also felt a disconnect between, okay, there are all these great ideas from Fellows that I've heard, but how are they connecting? It's a good question. And so I was so thankful and blessed when I got to this new firm, and I hear about this new approach. It's not something I had ever heard about before. It's not something anyone had really told me about in the business classes I didn't take. It was called appreciative inquiry. And so it's funny enough that we've been talking about inquiry the last couple days, because appreciative inquiry is a completely different mindset. If a lot of consulting is driven by problem solving and fixing what's broken, there's a machine in the production line, go fix it, repair it, replace it, find a new one, upgrade it. That gets applied to a lot of business thinking, new customers, new products, whatever it may be. It's a lot of fixing what's broken, but appreciative inquiry takes a whole other take on it, and it's that instead of finding the things that are broken and focusing on those, find the things that work well and make them, in effect, flourish. Now, flourishing I can understand. Flourishing is talked about. We see flourishing in the Bible. We talked about flourishing in Fellows. Flourishing in another way is dominion and multiplication. It's the cultural mandate. Flourishing is what we're charged to do from the Garden of Eden. Flourishing is not just meant to be this thing that sometimes happens. And what I've come to realize is that flourishing is and should be our challenge in our lives. It's a challenge for us that we are meant to bring it into where we work, even when it's not there. And maybe some might say, especially when it's not there. Because flourishing takes our involvement. It's not dependent on it by itself. Thank goodness we have a God bigger than that. But flourishing is so much bigger than just us. But we've got to recognize our piece of that. And recognize the flourishing for what it is and when it happens. And so, to me, seeing this connection between, okay, now I'm at a place where not in a firm of 150,000, but in a firm of now 6, my voice is heard. I feel valued. The senior partner in the firm, who's been working as long as I've been alive, asked me on my 3rd week there, while we were writing a proposal for our government client, "So what do you think?" And my first reaction in the inside of my brain, where time slowed down, I was like, didn't know you were supposed to do that. But it was empowering, it continued. And that's been amazing. And I don't work in a firm of believers, and that's been a challenge in and of itself, but I have seen ways in which I can help organizations, and I can help the federal government and our state clients and our nonprofit clients flourish by bringing order and chaos into their world and into their realm. And I think, having reflected on my time at the first firm, this gigantic place where I felt swamped, I realized that I also failed to miss how God was there, because I felt like I was being overburdened and overwhelmed. But I missed the fact that in my work there, I was still creating things. And if we follow logically that God created the heavens and the earth, and that was good. God created man, and that was very good. God created man in his image, and we were very good. And if the image of God is as a creator, and if we're in his image, then we should do what he does, which is create things. I missed that. And so I guess the ultimate point of this is just to say, remember and have perspective. Remember that you come from a creator who's good, who wants you to flourish and who wants you to bring flourishing into the world, who wants you to serve and bring dominion and multiplication to the world. And in fact, we're meant to be many kings and queens. If that's true, that means we have to be responsible. That means we have to be diligent. That means we have to take on responsibilities and decisions that are probably above our pay grade and that we aren't equipped for perfectly. But it means that we have a God who's big enough for that, who's prepared us for it, or who is preparing us for it, and that who knows what our challenges and our strengths and our griefs are going to be that we've heard about, but that he is perfect and can fill those in. And so ultimately, I'll leave you with this. As a product of the 90s, I love Disney Channel movies and any other DreamWorks-related movies. So, my wife will laugh. This is a quote from the Prince of Egypt soundtrack. It's not going to be all of it, but it's enough that it gets the point across. A single thread in a tapestry, though its color brightly shines, can never see its purpose in the pattern of the grand design. And the stone that sits on the very top of the mountain's mighty face, does it think it's more important than the stones that form the base? So how can you see what your life is worth or where your value lies? You can never see through the eyes of man. You must look at your life through heaven's eyes. So how do you measure the worth of a man in wealth or strength or size, in how much he gained or how much he gave? The answer will come to him who tries to look at his life through heaven's eyes. And that's why we share all we have with you, though there's little to be found. When all you've got is nothing, there's a lot to go around. No life can escape being blown about by the winds of change and chance, and though you never know all the steps, you must learn to join the dance. So how do you judge what a man was worth? By what he builds or buys? You can never see with your eyes on earth. Look at your life through heaven's eyes. So my challenge for you all is to look at your life through heaven's eyes. At home, with your family, with your friends, at work, with your colleagues, with your Lord. Look at your life through heaven's eyes. Thank you.